Hello. Sometimes we are in a situation with someone and we are noticing that we are getting more and more triggered, and perhaps we are unable to escape. For instance, being inside the car. We are unable to escape. Now, safety is important. So if we are driving and we don't feel safe, it's important that we stop the car safely and communicate. We'll continue to drive when we feel calmer, so that we increase our safety for ourselves and others. Equally, if you're in a situation where we're getting triggered and we struggle to stop arguing ourselves, they say just bite the tongue. That's a saying, just bite your tongue, instead of saying something that will add wood to the fire you might regret, that will trigger to an escalation where you end up feeling ashamed. No. Bit your tongue. That can be painful. Okay. Now, ever try the bite your tongue instead of saying something? That might be just an expression instead of a literal expression. But what about stick your tongue out? Not in a aggressive way which will escalate. Kids do that. Not with the intention of sticking the tongue out to aggravate the other person or in anger. I'm going to suggest stick the tongue out in a way to relax the tension of the body. And also, you can't talk when your tongue is sticking out. Try talking. Okay, I'm going to stick my tongue out and try to talk. Nothing. Nothing. I cannot talk when my tongue is sticking out. So, if you're feeling that our ego is trying to have the last word, is trying to argue, and we're feeling that we're unable to stop in the moment, but it's not going anywhere, it's not solving, let's stick our tongue out for a moment. And that not only relaxes the muscles of the face and the mouth, but as I said, you cannot speak. So we are creating a moment of silence, and in that silence we're creating that increased safety, because if you don't add wood to the fire, then the fire starts scything. And then, if you get your glass of that, you can even look cool. And then be a little silly to shake or come off your strong, determined ways of arguing to be right, or because you think you're right, we might think that we are right, so we don't want to let go of that grip. So let's go off the grip of wanting to be right, needing to be right, or thinking that we are right, for the sake of our health, the health of those we are communicating with, and also the relationship. Okay, we're going to create a moment of silliness. So instead of arguing, what goes nowhere, if we choose to address something, let's address it constructively. When we feel calm, when we feel connected, and the same with others, so that we can find a resolution, so that we can create a space of communicating our wants, needs and preferences, and also being able to hear and listen the wants and wishes and preferences of the other person, so that together we can create a solution, come up with a solution, the best meets our needs. That is a solution that is helpful to all the parties involved, us and them. That is in line with the values we want to live, the life we want to live, that we feel proud of rather than ashamed, that we feel lighter instead of creating more suffering for ourselves and others. So, you could bite your tongue if you wish to, but then I wouldn't encourage that because you can hurt yourself. And also, if you really bite too hard, you can create a cut. So I wouldn't go with that literally. That's my opinion. Only my observation, but you can go just, what's the worst that can happen if you stick your tongue out? No, don't do it directly to the person that feels aggravated, because it will incite and can be misinterpreted as a sign of aggression and attack and disrespect. So, in your own safe space, just to release some of that tension, and you can even communicate, I'm going to stick my tongue out because I wish to stop, or turn your face away and put your glasses, your googly glasses, your silly glasses, no, that sounds immature. Maybe. You may well be immature, but when we are arguing and creating suffering for ourselves and others, how mature is that? We're not being mature at all when we're shouting, when we're arguing, and we're adding more wood to the fire, and the other person is becoming defensive or attacking and is out of control, and we're out of control. There's nothing mature about that. So if you're going to be immature, might as well be with something that reduces, de-escalate ourselves, because we can't control others. So bring your silly glasses and stick your tongue out and relax these muscles. And let's take a breath in and go with the no. Can't even pronounce the no. It's more of a ha, ha. Let's go with the ha. You know, a little singing, humming. Can't pronounce anything. So that tongue is getting more and more relaxed, more and more relaxed. And you're creating that physical space and time for the mind to lose the grip. Okay? And give us that, creating that safe space where we can start thinking about our options, and then how would I like to respond with my automatic, or just think it through. Is it worth me wasting my time, energy, my health, my mood? Is this argument worth my time, energy, mood? Should I jeopardize this relationship? Or shall I just retreat into my safe space? Because I can access and do that in this moment. If the other person is unable to, it's on them. And we can influence, but we can't control them. So, breathe in and look up, look down, look all around, and see if you can start. If you're in the car and you stick your tongue out, and it's sunny day and you get your glasses, and then catch yourself in the mirror, it does look a little silly. And if you find yourself being a little silly, you can laugh with it. I'm so mature. I'm immature. When we're having conflict, we tend to revert to our old ways of being. Ways that perhaps in the past was helpful. Speaking louder. When we speak louder, we can be heard. Our voices, when we are shouting, not only the shouting is a way of pushing away, scaring the person that we are seeing as opponent, that we're feeling threatened by. It's a way of pushing away, threatening, but it's also a way of drawing attention to us so that we can feel perhaps supported. And that might be very valid if we were in an environment where we are more vulnerable. Perhaps when we were younger, because we were in an environment where we were the least physically strong, where we couldn't look ourselves. So it's a way of getting attention. However, now we can make different choices. And it might be ingrained in our bodies and minds, and we might automatically go into it. But the minute we catch ourselves, the minute we get hold of ourselves, we can push that pause button. Pause. 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 Or we can take deep breaths, breathe in, and blow some raspberries. Can allow the lips to do that lip drill for as long as we can. Breathe in and exhale. When we are sad, we're going to frown. The lines go down. And when we're neutral, they go into a more neutral space. And instead of arguing, why don't we use our energy to create safety, to create love for ourselves and healing, for the other person as well. But if you're unable to, for the other person, what about using our time and energy to create safety and peace? Breathe in. That humming might mean nothing or might mean something, but at least it's more neutral. So if you're using our words, our energy, let it be for safety and peace and love. We might be blinded in a moment, but it's just a moment. And the minute we can get hold of ourselves, let's question, is this worth my energy? And if it is worth our energy, is this the best strategy? Is this the best way? Sometimes things need addressing, but is this the best possible way? Let's think. Is me arguing and fighting the best possible way of getting my needs met? Am I being reasonable? Am I demanding? Or am I expressing a preference? Am I being reasonable? And often we think we are reasonable because we want our wants and needs met. But then are we looking at it in terms of us? Are we looking at it with the eyes of flexibility and adaptability? Are we allowing ourselves to see a different perspective? Or are we simply demanding and saying that what we say, when we say, is the right way, and everybody needs to come on board, or else we shout? But sometimes we're just blinded by that reason And what does it mean? Why do we have this need? Let's ask ourselves, why do I have the need to impose my way? Why? Why do I have the need to force my way into someone? Responses and answers will come to us. Let's listen with curiosity. Why do I need to force my way? Why does it have to be my way? Sometimes we impose our ways because we want to be heard. We simply want the other person to hear us. Or sometimes we might have a bigger perspective that the person that we're talking to is not having at the moment. Or sometimes we try to use our power so we feel important, so we feel that our needs matter most. Power and control. And sometimes we are doing it for a greater good, but we're going about it the wrong way. Allow the breath coming in and out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Notice the breath rising and falling. Perhaps we wanted this to hear us and share that they care for us, that they are committed for us, that they love us. And sometimes that's all we know, that's what I experience. Sometimes it is our preference. But instead of communicating a judgment and a criticism, how about if you could just communicate our preferred ways, our wishes and desires? I've noticed that you're doing this. I would prefer if you would do that instead. But I'll respect your decision. Why can't we just express our preferences in a calm, gentle way? Perhaps we might feel scared or anticipate that our needs will not be met, and then we'll feel hurt. Perhaps we already know, based on our experience and our past, that the other person will not see our needs, will not meet our needs, because they are unable to, because they don't have the know-how, because they might have different priorities, different values. And then we're going to feel hurt again, and we might feel uncared for and unloved. So instead of being vulnerable and expressing and having a positive expectation, we have a negative expectation that it will not happen. And perhaps we have learned that the only way of getting our needs met was by raising our voices, by shouting, by demanding, by using our force, our aggression. And perhaps we have learned along our way that the only way of getting heard was to speak louder, screaming louder. But now we are in a position that we can communicate differently. Because if you continue to demand, if you continue to use force and aggression, yes, we might temporarily influence others and coerce others into behaving in the ways that we want to. But it will only leave others feeling terrible, depleted, hurt, low in mood and depressed. it will make us feel terrible and ashamed of our behaviour. So it's not a win-win. It's just a momentary win, but with a lifelong of consequences for ourselves, our health, the other's health, and the relationship. Breathe in and breathe out. Breathe in and breathe out. Notice the breath rising and falling. Perhaps we were raised or had experiences of a chaotic environment where we were never heard, never seen, never a priority because someone else's had the biggest struggle, the biggest suffering, a bigger voice, bigger power. And then we might feel that the only way we can be seen and heard and taken for serious is by raising our voice, by shouting, by demanding. But now we know better. We know our worth and value, and if we don't, we can go down the journey of learning to see it and recognize it. And we can be compassionate with ourselves. Breathe in. Breathe out. Love, healing, and compassion. Breathe in. And breathe out. We have choices. And we can go with the automatic reaction of shouting, arguing, demanding. And even making a situation worse by insisting. But the moment we have that tiny little pause, let's get hold of ourselves in whatever form we can, even if it just means to stop arguing, sticking our tongue out, getting our glasses of wisdom or silliness and look up, down, and all around. Until we are able to get into our wise mind and ask ourselves, is this worth our time, energy, mood? Is this the best way? Is this the way that I wish to resolve things? Ask the questions and then have compassion for where we are. Okay, we might have lost in a moment, but now we can pause and do differently. Even if it's just a baby step in a different direction. Direction of silliness. Not taking ourselves too seriously. Until we are able to remember that we can breathe into the belly. And slowly out. Until we can connect with our hearts. Breathe in. And slowly out. Until we know that we can calm ourselves down. And from a place of calm, we can look at our options and then decide how we wish to address. Do we wish to, or are we in a position to do something about it? Or do we need to accept, make peace with it, or choose to address it at a different time. When we feel calmer, when others are calmer. Breathe in. Breathe out. Or even simply choosing. I'm choosing, communicating. I'm choosing to withdraw from this interaction because it's no longer helpful and healthy. It's no longer good for me. I'm choosing to withdraw from this situation, from this conversation, because it's no longer healthy and helpful for me. And communicating, I'm choosing to withdraw from this conversation, from this argument, because it's no longer healthy and healthy for me. And I don't want to make things worse. And I don't want to feel worse. I don't want you to feel worse. I don't want us to feel worse. I care for me, I care for you, but right now I need to look after myself. Breathe in. Breathe out. I choose to withdraw from this conversation. Breathe in. Breathe out. Communicating that choice. I choose to be in peace. I'd like some peace. Breathe in. Breathe out. We can communicate our preference. I'd like some peace. I'm choosing. I'm ejecting myself on this conversation because no longer feels good. No longer feels healthy and balanced. Don't look at it as in the other person is the winner and we're the losers. The other way around. We're looking at it, we know what we need. We know what's best for us. And if we are engaging in a conversation that's leading nowhere, just because we've got the momentum going, and we are blinded by those thoughts of trying to be right, and by the stress hormones in our body, the minute we can get hold of ourselves, let's make a different choice. We can even communicate. In this moment I feel like saying this or doing this, but I'm going to choose not to. In this moment I feel like shouting and arguing, but I'm going to choose not to. In this moment I might feel like throwing this, destroying this, or smacking you, whatever there might be. Okay, if you're feeling very angry. But I'm going to choose not to. In this moment I might feel like destroying something of yours. That's just an example. But I'm going to choose not to. In this moment I might have the impulse to do something destructive. But I'm going to choose not to. In this moment I have this strong impulse, perhaps to punch you, but I'm going to choose not to. Because that's not the person that I want to be. It's not the behaviors I want to have. It's not going to solve this problem. Just communicating. You can communicate. There's no, I'm feeling so mad, so upset that I want to remove all your privileges. But I'm going to choose to retreat to my safe space. So whatever that may be. So noticing that urge, that impulse, but also feeling proud, because how often are we able to control ourselves? I have very good self-control physically, but if you argue with me, then it's going to be a little harder not to argue back if I'm feeling triggered. So I need to find ways, if I'm feeling triggered. So we need to know what our triggers are. And for example, 2 of my triggers would be if I'm dealing with someone that is incredibly disrespectful or is being physically aggressive to me, then it's very hard for me not to argue back. So those are 2 extreme triggers for me. So I have to work very hard at not arguing back. So sometimes people are disrespectful because they don't know how to manage their emotions in the moment, because they don't know how to communicate their needs and wants and preferences in an assertive manner, because they are not able to see that they have choices and options. Perhaps because we are engaging in a behavior that is triggering them. Perhaps we are not being fair to them and they have their fight on the driving seat. They are activated by the fight mode. Perhaps they are struggling with something deeper and the momentum is so great that they feel out of control. And that can go for the disrespect and also can go for the physical aggression. Their body is on a fight mode and they're struggling to manage the impulses. Another time that I might feel triggered is if someone is destroying my things. Now we all have our triggers, but we can't control other people. We can only influence the way we respond, and we just have to work very hard at getting hold of ourselves when we are struggling in those situations, so that we don't add more wood to the fire, so don't make a situation even worse or escalate. So stick your tongue out instead of argue. As for me, don't argue back. Okay. Some people might have the urge to fight. I have very good self-control from that. So I don't know what I would say if you have the urge to fight and you're not managing. I would say remove yourself from the situation. If you're going physically, then remove yourself because you're no longer safe. And if you want to destroy something, again, remove yourself until you feel calmer. Another thing you could do with that energy is to do something productive. Since you've got that cortisol and norepinephrine and the body's pumping you and making you ready to fight, use that energy towards fueling into another activity. If I'm feeling too angry, I can just vacuum the house. Use that energy to vacuum the house. That's one way that I use my energy. That's a suggestion. Another one is cleaning the windows. And another one is going for a walk. So 3 suggestions. Cleaning, vacuuming, going for a walk. So you're releasing it from your system. You can also do exercise. Again, that's helpful. Instead of directing towards a person within displacing that anger. So if you're displacing the anger, may it be towards some of our goals. So if you are, imagine very angry with your boss and you come home and you have a go with your partner or kids, you're displacing that anger. But if you're displacing the anger, let it be into a context where it doesn't bring any more harm. Perhaps do an exercise class where there's boxing, kicking, hitting, or jumping off that rope, and you release that anger through the rope. Okay, or something else constructively. Moving pots. I move pots in the garden backwards and forwards when I'm feeling angry because I've got that energy. So I just use the energy. I already know what pots I need moved into, so I use the extra energy that I have in the moment towards moving the pots. Just some ideas. Just think if there's something that needs a little bit more energy in the moment that perhaps you're not managing. And since that the body released all of this energy to fight, then use it towards something that normally you would need to do, but you don't have the energy to do it. So you're displacing that energy in a more helpful way. Physically, often just the fact that we remove ourselves from the thing that is triggering us, the person, the situation, our brain will start calming down because it's no longer a threat to our existence, and it's usually a perceiving a threat, but often it's just a perceived threat, it's not a real threat. And we might have some personal rules that in everyone must respect me at all times, or my son or my father must respect me at all times. And then the minute that rule is not respected, we can find ourselves getting very triggered. Now, is those rules good to have in place? They're good to live our life by. That we should do our best to be respectful to others. But sometimes we are not, we think we are being respectful, but we are not fully being respected. Sometimes there's a line between respect and care. Sometimes we think of being respectful, but we're not being fully the same with others. So, is it reasonable? And let's increase our physical safety, mentally and emotionally, but equally be reasonable and let ourselves and others off the hook. We can put up a boundary. I'd like to be respected because I'm a person, I'm a human being, because I have a relationship with you, and I'd like our relationships to be based on mutual respect. And 3, because I am mother, daughter, whatever that might be, that role might be, and because I'd like to feel good and I'd like you to feel good. Communicate that. And when you don't respect me, I will disengage. This is what I'll do if you do not respect me. So we are putting that decision on ourselves. If others want to come on board, good. If they don't want to come on board, it's on them and you have to accept. But often we'll find that we all want the same. We want to be respected. It's just a little moment that got a little out of control because we are both feeling triggered. And one thing leads to another and escalates very quickly because the primitive brains are on the driving seat, seeking safety and no longer seeing the humanity in ourselves and others. It's just straight into the survival of the fittest, our survival. And if you are not as strong, we can go to a place of feeling frozen or withdrawing. But if we are arguing back, and this video is more about when we are arguing and we have to stop ourselves from adding wood to the fire. So stick that tongue out and bring the breath in And exhale slowly and fully. Connect with the breath as many times as needed to calm the body down. Breathe in and slowly out. Breathe in and slowly out. Notice the breath. Notice the belly rising and falling. Peace, love and healing. Breathe in. Breathe in. Breathe out. May I be free from my suffering. Breathe in. Breathe out. May we all be free from our suffering. Breathe in. Breathe out. May I find peace. Breathe in. Breathe out. Health. Breathe in. Breathe out. Happiness. Breathe in. Breathe out. Love. Breathe in. Breathe out. Positivity. Breathe in. Breathe out. I sincerely hope that you're feeling a little bit more in control of your behavior and seeing the choices that you have. Because often it's just giving that space to remove ourselves from the automatic reaction into something perhaps a little silly, like immature, because you're already being immature anyway, to something more neutral, like breathing. To something more empowering and problem solving, which is looking and deciding in what way we wish to continue, in what way we wish to show up, and noticing our choices. Love, 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 love. Take good care. Take your breath with you. Connect with it if you cannot remember anything else. Just increasing that relaxation in the body. And then when you feel relaxed, you'll have the impulse to do better and think of other solutions. Bye for now.